Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Jobin, and you are listening to Time to Talk, a podcast for caregivers. This podcast is dedicated to helping family caregivers in Ontario. Through expert tips and resources, you will gain knowledge and validation for the ups and downs that come with caregiving. More importantly, you'll learn that you're not alone. It's so important to take this time for yourself. We're glad you're here. FAR Canada, or Families for Addiction Recovery, is a national charity founded by parents of children who have struggled with addiction from their teen years. Their goal is long-term recovery for those with addiction and for their families. FAR offers families a variety of resources and free supports, such as one-on-one phone support, online parent support groups, and a free phone support line. Today, we are joined by Louise Lemieux-White from FAR Canada, and later on, we'll also be talking to Kate, a caregiver who has experienced caring for someone with addiction. This is a highly sensitive topic, and it is so important. We are going to cover as much as we can and share the supports available to caregivers. Louise, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks, Michelle. It's great to be here, and I'm thrilled that we're given the opportunity to share our knowledge and our experience.
We are thrilled that you're here today too, and we wanted to create a space where Ontario caregivers could connect and share, and hopefully through our conversation today, we can all gain a little bit more insight into the special role and responsibility of a caregiver, and more specifically today when it comes to addiction recovery, as well as give caregivers to those struggling with addiction resources for help. So in Canada, it is estimated that approximately 21% of the population, and this is about 6 million people, will meet the criteria for addiction in their lifetime. And in Ontario, 10% of people use substances problematically. So that's a very staggering statistic. So Louise, we'll touch a bit on that, but I wanted to start with your work with FAR Canada and your expertise. What are some signs that a loved one may have developed an addiction?
It's a great question, Michelle. Thanks for asking it. The stats are somewhat staggering in it. And when you think about it in terms of numbers, the 10% of Ontarians who struggle with a substance use disorder, that's the new common term now for addiction, is substance use disorder or problematic substance use. Every one of those individuals is surrounded by somebody who loves them. That's where Families for Addiction Recovery comes in. Could be somebody's child, somebody's sibling, somebody's aunt, uncle, parent. Our organization focuses on the people who take care of people who use substances problematically. So family members. Particularly, our focus has been on parents supporting or being supported. FAR supports the parents who have children who struggle, because at the end of the day, no matter what age their child is, it could be a 35-year-old, could be a 14-year-old, they're still their child. And that parent is still going along with that child on their journey that can be quite destructive and obviously upsetting for the family, for them to watch this journey and for them to try to seek services and supports for their loved one. And so that's where Families for Addiction Recovery comes in, is we realize that there's a lack of supports and services for those family members who care for people who struggle with problematic substance use. And so we said, we know what it's like because we've all lived it. All our parents, people who work for us, we're all volunteers primarily, and we know what it's like because we've had that journey. We know and we understand the journey that those family members go through, and it's extremely isolating.
And it is extremely isolating, but it's interesting to think of it that way when we talk about the statistics that I kicked things off with, that 21% of the population will meet this criteria at some point in their lifetime. And to clarify, we're not just talking about illicit drugs. There is a very wide spectrum of what comes under the umbrella of substance use disorder or problematic substance use. So can you clarify that a little bit for us, just in case there is any misunderstanding there?
Absolutely. Yes. The majority of us use drugs. Alcohol is a drug. Over-the-counter medication is a drug. Your Tylenol is a drug. Caffeine's a drug. We all use drugs. The question is whether it has impacted our life to the extent where our life is sort of consumed by the use of drugs rather than us using the drug to help us. It's more a problematic use would be somebody who stops at nothing to get access to the drug because it makes them feel good. People use drugs for a reason. That's a very important thing for people to appreciate, is that they're not doing it because they're bad people. They're not doing it because it's just they're bored or they just are struggling with actually that's exactly it. They're struggling with something. And so be it mental illness, be it trauma, be it genetic, there's a 40 to 60% chance that if you've had that in your familial tree, that you may be the carrier or the next person in your family to struggle with that.
Well, thank you for clarifying all of that, because I think we get a better sense of just how wide reaching of an issue this is, and how important it is that we address all of these things and the needs of caregivers that are specifically working with or caring for loved ones with substance use disorders. Can you tell us a little bit more about FAR Canada and the work that they do as an organization?
Yes, we've created this organization in 2016. And in 2018, we launched a parent support group, parent support program. And from there, so that's a one-on-one program. As you mentioned, we have 3 types of supports for parents. And now it's expanded into family caregivers. So it's not just parents, right? Because it could be siblings taking care of their sibling who has an addiction. But the one-on-one is very popular. It has been running since 2018, and we collect amazing data for that. We match somebody who reaches out to us, match them with a trained parent peer volunteer who then will, just basically have a conversation with them. So up to 8 conversations. These are all done by phone. And, what that offers the parents is an immense amount of, hey, I'm not alone on this journey. I'm less isolated. Somebody can listen to me who's not going to judge me and who's not going to tell me you've got to do this, because who needs to be told what to do in this journey? What they need is to be heard and to say, I know what that's like. That's kind of an awful journey you're going through, and I've been there. And what are you doing for yourself? The self-care component is huge for caregivers, and caregivers often forget that. So that's one of the supports we offer. There's also group support. If they don't want one-on-one, they can call into a group 4 times a month. And that all our services, by the way, are free. And then there's one-on-one phone calls, which are 5 times a week. So 10 hours of the week is offered, where somebody who may have missed the group or doesn't have a peer supporter yet can just call in and say, hey, I'm having a rough patch with my son right now. Can you listen to me? And so those are all our free services at this time.
That's a great, and it's wonderful that these are all free and available. And I'm assuming if you go onto the FAR Canada website that you can kind of look up all of these resources available. And does that include the free phone support line as well? Is that something that people could just call in and get someone on the other line that can help them connect?
That's correct. It's not, to be clear, it's not a crisis line.
Okay.
It's just a phone line, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, where somebody's just able to listen. And sometimes that's all parents need, is to be validated in their journey and to have somebody who really understands at the other end.
Absolutely. We are in difficult times for everyone. But the pandemic from my understanding, has exacerbated a lot of issues around substance abuse and use. Has the pandemic impacted the number of families reaching out for support to FAR Canada? And what's the one piece of advice you would give to a listener who may be overwhelmed with both the pandemic and caregiving? So let's kind of talk about that in two pieces. Do you think the pandemic has amplified this?
100%. This is, we have a pandemic within a pandemic, or an epidemic within a pandemic. The public health measures, they've been necessary, but they have forced families to be more together, since the children or the people who care for people with problematic substance use don't have places to go. They have limited access to safe drugs, and also, the distancing, that it is also a risk for drug users. And that could even be a parent who has a child who uses drugs in their basement. We're not just talking about somebody who uses a drug, an illicit drug, in a back alley. We have parents who call us whose children use drugs in their basement, and they're afraid for their lives just as much as a parent who calls us who has a child living in an alley somewhere. And so, in terms of the second part of the question, when we get phone calls or reaches like that, number one, we ask the parent if they have a naloxone kit. Naloxone is that free medication, free in Ontario anyway, that parents can get access to at a pharmacy. It reverses an overdose situation. And all it takes is a visit to a pharmacy, or you can call them to see if they have them in stock, and you just go there with your health card and you can get one for free. The second thing we ask, we inform the parents who call us, and these are pandemic related issues. I mean, the casualties have skyrocketed. So we need people to be safe, right? And if they're going to use drugs, it's not good enough to just say, stop using drugs. We need them to know, and families to know, caregivers to know how to do it safely, because there's no control here. And so the second thing, what we recommend is for them to be familiar with NORS. NORS is the National Overdose Response Service. If you go to our website, farcanada.org, it's the first pop-up. It pops up on our screen. National Overdose Response Service. And it's a service where if somebody's going to use drugs alone, because we don't recommend they use alone because you never know if it's safe, laced with toxins that may kill them, is that they phone somebody prior to using, and the person stays on the phone with them until they're finished. And if they don't get a response from them, say they stop breathing, they activate the EMS, the emergency services. So, those are two really great necessary things for family caregivers to know about, and to know also that they're not alone, that we understand, we can hook them up to our services and help them along with their journey.
Those are two excellent pieces of advice, the second of which I didn't even know the existence of, so that's really good to know. And you have been a wonderful resource for us so far, Louise. I wanted to bring Kate into the conversation now, and she's going to join our chat. Kate is a caregiver of someone who struggles with addiction, and we wanted to thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing your experiences.
Caring for different ages means providing different kinds of support. That's why the Ontario Caregiver Organization put together a toolkit to help caregivers give the right kind of support to the people they are caring for. Whether you're caring for children and youth or adults and seniors, this toolkit holds resources any caregiver can use. If you're new to caregiving, there is help for you as well. Caregivers across Ontario can equip themselves with everything they need, no matter who they are caring for. Visit ontariocaregiver.ca for more information. Now, back to our episode.
Kate, I wanted to ask you first, when did you become a caregiver?
The biggest thing that people have to understand is these children, these people don't go out to be an addict. They don't say, I'm going to grow up and become an addict. Something happens, it's like saying, oh, do you want this beer? Maybe you're strong enough to say no. Others might not. Some things you're going to be addicted instantly. With my daughter, she was actually abducted by a man that was 10 years older than her. And Louise knows the story because she was actually my mentor, which was very wonderful to have Louise to talk to. And it wasn't her fault, but what happened after, you choose what happens after, and we're slowly going through the cycle saying, it's not your fault. You didn't choose to do this. Most of the kids don't choose to do this. They don't choose, oh, I'm going to be in, something happens to them.
It's important that we remove any sort of stigma from the perspective when it comes to substance abuse disorders, because it is an illness, and we should treat it the way we would treat any other illness. So, and I thank you so much for sharing your story. I know it's difficult for you and your experience. What would you say are some of the unique challenges that caregivers have when they are caring for someone with addictions?
The biggest thing is finding out more information. Okay, what are they on? What do I need to know? Do I need an Ioxin kit? Is there something else that I need to carry in the home? Can they be in my home? The hardest thing to say is, at this point, maybe you need to be in rehab. Maybe you need to be not in the house, depending on if there's other children in the home. Is there a safety issue? Like one parent I talked to, they're worried because their child had said they were going to poison them. They were going to hurt them in the evening. So then that becomes a big issue. Okay, where do you go from there? Mostly we're here to listen to them. I know as a caregiver myself, I take care of other people's children. And like teaching, I didn't want people to know. So here I am teaching your young kid, but mine's messed up. But it's not really messed up. She's just going through a cycle. It's what happened to her. I've been told 100 times that she should go in modeling prior to this 26-year-old, 27-year-old wanting a 15-year-old. He took her for 3 days. So that wasn't her fault. But it's how we deal with it after. When parents call, I want to be there. I want to support them. I want to listen to them.
It's very generous of you to do that and to be there for both of you, to volunteer to do that for other parents as well. Louise, do you have anything to add in terms of what might be some of the unique challenges that caregivers in this situation might experience?
You hit the nail on the head there with the word stigma. Stigma's probably the largest barrier that caregivers have, and the actual person who is struggling with problematic drug use as well, is they think they're not worthy. The people who use think they're not worthy of getting the care and love that they deserve or that they need to be able to turn things around. And the parents or the family caregivers believe that it's so stigmatized that they don't want to be judged. They don't want to say, this is what's happening with my family member, because people think that they've done something wrong. You haven't done, as a parent or family caregiver, you haven't done anything wrong. To Kate's point, something can happen that can just turn the dial and off that person goes in another direction because they're too traumatized by what has happened to them, and they discover something that helps ease their pain from that trauma. And so we've got to look at, not just treating the addiction, but also treating the underlying causes, mental illness, mental health challenges, trauma, genetics, personality traits too.
And it's none of us, if someone had, say, a genetic predisposition to breast cancer, would sort of stigmatize that at all. So, because that can be just one of the many components that underlie addiction, it's terrible that there would be the perception that it would be any different. for this as an illness versus another kind of an illness. Kate, do you think that the stigma of addictions holds caregivers back in these situations from getting help?
I believe they do. Society sets a norm and they want everyone to live at this norm. But you don't know what happens behind closed doors. We talked to Sarah, and just wanted to let you guys know it goes beyond Ontario. I'm not actually in Ontario. I'm in Alberta. So we're branching out, and we want to get more people to help us help others. And it's listening. It's just a lot of it was listening. I just wanted to talk to someone when I joined. Louise was there. But a lot of the parents are embarrassed. They don't, the white picket fence. This is my house. But what happens inside those four walls? Not too many people know. They don't want the world to know. I left a position because they found out that my daughter still did some drugs after the fact of what happened to her. And I didn't want to be there. And I thought, no, I don't need everybody to know. So that was a major thing, is I left the position I loved for 15 years teaching because everybody knew.
Well, hopefully the more that we have conversations about this, the less people will feel, especially when we realize how prevalent it is. Louise, I know you had something that you wanted to add, so please do.
Yeah, I think what we're really talking about, Kate and I, is the shame. Mm-hmm. The shame that we think we've done something wrong. Look at us, look at our, in quotations, bad kid. They're not bad, they're sick, right? And so we carry as caregivers that shame until somebody says to us, but it's not your fault. And you didn't do anything to cause this. And sadly, you can't cure it either, but we can give you some skills to make your life better. And when a parent's life or a caregiver's life is a little bit better, their life becomes a little bit more manageable. Guess what? The child responds to that. Not always, but they do, because the parent has learned new skills to be able to cope, new skills to be able to support their loved one using. For example, like a skill is to not be angry with them, because it's not their fault. What does anger do? It doesn't help the situation at all, right?
Kate, did you have something to add?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, like I said, having someone to listen to. And now that I've learned different ways to address my daughter, talk to my daughter, let her know it's not her fault. What happened to you happened to you. Let's move on. Let's see what we can do. We went to rehab, and she's going to attend school in September, university. She wants to work with those families that are sexually assaulted, those teens that something happened to them. And if it turns into addiction, so this ends up being a good story. And it all happened with Louise teaching me and helping me that it wasn't my fault. I don't need to be embarrassed, and people need help.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you, because you've found Kate and you, Kate, have found Louise so helpful, and Far Canada's resources so helpful. How did you find out about them and their resources available for caregivers?
On the internet. I was just searching. I needed someone to talk to that didn't really judge or just wanted to talk to someone. So I sent out the email, and then Louise called and we sparked up a conversation. And I think she was a little surprised at all the details about what had happened, because that's rare when someone takes your daughter.
Absolutely.
And then we just talked, and then I said, you know what? I want to make a difference too. So she said, do you want to be a peer support? I said, I'd love to be. I'd love to just listen to another parent and let them get it out. Let them know they're not alone.
The Ontario Caregiver Organization is dedicated to equipping caregivers with the resources they need to make sure they are not alone in their journey. Through our e-learning courses, you can learn on your own time and at your own pace. We provide e-learning courses for family caregivers, healthcare providers, volunteers, and employers. If you're new to caregiving, you can take a Caregiver 101 course to get you started. For more information, visit learning.ontariocaregiver.ca. That's learning.ontariocaregiver.ca. Now, back to our episode.
We are incredibly thankful to both of you for being there for others that might be going through a similar experience that both of you have experienced, and also for being so good enough to talk to us here today. Before we sum up, is there any last piece of advice or anything you'd like to share with caregivers that might be going through an experience of caring for someone with addictions?
I would love to remind people not only that they're not alone, but also to educate themselves. If your child or you were diagnosed with an illness, you have at your fingertips Dr. Google, Mr. Google. You have a lot of resources to find out what you're dealing with and what the potential is there. Go educate yourself. Find out more information about what is the illness of addiction, that it is an actual illness and that it's a brain disease, and that there are some changes that can happen to the brain, and then it can recuperate, it can recover. And through the process of recovery, the family ends up, or the caregivers end up recovering as well. And it is possible. Recovery is possible.
Kate, anything you'd like to add?
Just make sure that it's not medical. Like, are they doing drugs because they're ADHD and it's just come to a point, or they bipolar? Let's make sure that there's no medical. Take them to the doctor and say, look, is there a reason bipolar? Like, different areas of the brain is not, we're in Canada, we have great healthcare, and then we'll go on from there. Learn what they're on. What can I do if they fall down on this drug? Not Nioxin is going to work for all opioids. So you need to make sure, okay, what is going to work for what my child is on?
This is a multi-layered situation, and there are so many components, and I appreciate the complexity of the situation that you have both dealt with and the expertise that you've shared with us today. Louise and Kate, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. You can access more details about support services on our website, ontariocaregiver.ca. Until next time, I'm Michelle Jobin, and you have been listening to Time to Talk, a podcast for caregivers. We hope you have a wonderful day.